Welcome back to 5 Minute Bible Study. We are going to wrap this section up. Matthew 13, 16 to 23. That's right. We're going to tackle this. But blessed are your eyes because they see, and your ears because they hear. For I tell you the truth, many prophets and righteous men longed to see what you see, but did not see it, and to hear what you hear, but did not hear it. Listen then to what the parable of the sower means. When anyone hears the message about the kingdom and does not understand it, and the evil one comes and snatches away what was sown in his heart. This is the seed sown along the path. The one who received the seed that fell on rocky places is the man who hears the word and at once receives it with joy. But since he has no root, he lasts only a short time. When trouble or persecution comes because of the word, he quickly falls away. The one who received the seed that fell among the thorns is the man who hears the word, but the worries of his life and the deceitfulness of wealth choke it, making it unfruitful. But the one who received the seed that fell on the good soil is the man who hears the word, understands it. He produces a crop yielding 100, 60, or 30 times what was sown. Okie dokie. So he starts off by saying, because he had just talked about people who never get to see Jesus, never hear him, they never open their eyes, they never open their ears. And he says, but you guys are happy because you've opened your heart to me. You use your eyes to look and search for me. You use your ears to listen. And because of what you see and because of what you hear, you are happy. And then he says, I'm not going to lie. Over the years, there have been so many godly people who longed to see the Savior, who longed to see me, to hear me. But maybe it just wasn't Jesus's time to show them. So they didn't get to see Jesus in the flesh. They just had to share what God had told them and trust that it was true. And then he says, but now let me, Jesus, tell you what it means. Let me explain what I mean. He says the first one is the one that falls on the path. And when it falls on the path, there's no understanding. The person doesn't quite get it. It can't go anywhere. It can't go down into the ground at all because there's just no understanding. So Satan comes and takes it away. And that person is left like they were before, empty. And then there's the one where it falls on the rocky soil. On the rocks, and in the rocks that's great because there is some soil, so there can be some life that starts, but that life starts quickly and immediately, but it can't last because there's nowhere to go deep. If you ever go to pull a weed out that's on a rock or rocky area, it comes out very easy. There's no root, and that's what the gospel would be like in a person where they don't transplant themselves into an environment where they can grow deeper into better soil. That needs to happen so they can take root. Otherwise, they can't resist the pull to leave their faith. They ride the high for a time, but eventually it wears off and regular life comes in. Trials and problems and horrible situations and horrible feelings and horrible states of mind. And the root was never deep enough to keep them anchored. And then the third one is when it falls among the weeds. And the problem is weeds grow faster than good plants. And they don't need as much to grow. They can grow rapidly on nothing. And so these people get planted and they grow and they take root. And this is good. But they get so consumed with what's around them, with the weeds, with things that look like they're growing in growth, but there's no roots. Things like money and wealth and power and keeping up with the Joneses and keeping up with society, with what society says is a good life and the American or Canadian dream. But those things are shallow and those things don't satisfy, but they choke out the little bit of truth that was in there and it falls apart. And the only good option is the good soil. And there are seeds that fall in the good soil. And these things take root and they grow down deep. And they're in an environment hopefully surrounded by other flowers instead of weeds so that there's room to grow. There's no choking. And this is where you find Jesus and where you find his love. And this is where you grow and you produce fruit. There is understanding. There is depth and growth and anchoring. it can resist the pull. How often sometimes do you find a plant, or you're tired of a plant and you want to rip it out, but you can't get it out because it's deeply rooted? This is the one who keeps his life and thrives by doing what it's supposed to do, by being fruitful and produce and supply. It's got good supply and it provides nourishment. And this reminds me of Billy Graham, because I'm reading his book right now. And every time he talks about a different crusade, what they always had in place was, no matter what country they were in, they had churches in place and people in place to reach out to the ones who accepted Jesus at the crusade. Because Billy Graham's going to go home. His people are going to go home. They're not going to stay in this big arena where the emotion is high and you maybe make an emotional decision. Doesn't mean it's not a good decision, but there's not much to sustain it. So he makes sure that when he leaves, there were people there to help these people grow, to move into good soil, to have an area to grow deep. And that is so important for any faith, no matter where it starts. As soon as you choose to give your life to Jesus, you need to be on the move to get somewhere where you can grow.